Okay, I'm going to start a couple minutes early because I can. Well, because I want to get going. And, cameras are all set up. Might as well get started. All right, hi. I hope you're having a good day. Today's Tuesday. And part of today being Tuesday, I have got something new and interesting to start up with. But here's today's page from a suggestion from Jim L. It is Jaws, but where sharks are humans and humans are sharks. So I was playing with this a little bit, talking about the aquatic humans. Aquatic simians is the actual theory, but anyways, this is fun to do. So we're gonna switch over. Hi, Linda. How you doing? Hi, Tim. How you guys doing? We're gonna switch over to here. So this is the new setup I've got in place. Anyways, this is the new setup I've got in place for working here in the studio now in painting. And so I'm able now, because of I have the remote camera, and I'm going to try to follow the conversation over there, but because I have the remote camera, I can do this now. So I have this on a tripod over there, and we're working away. What I'm doing is just fiddling about. What I'm actually doing is going through a whole bunch of old brushes, and I've got a couple different containers of old brushes, and I don't know why I'm keeping all these. If they, this is cool setup. Thank you, Linda. I don't know why I'm keeping all these if some of them are cheese. It's the cheapness in me is what it is. So, yeah. So I've been testing these out, doing this little Caravaggio study, and yeah, we're finding some use for some of them, and others that are just, it's time to go. It's time to go. They've had their time in the sun. It's time for them to be able to move on to that merry brush plane in the sky. So I've got a basic palette again today. I think you can see it on the side where I use the burnt sienna, the raw sienna, a white, I have sap or a forest green, your black, and then I've got a burnt umber and a denim blue. It's called denim blue. Ooh, that's just this particular brand. But, and so I'm just going about testing out each of these brushes along the way. And so I'm switching brushes a lot. And by switching brushes a lot, it's, this goes in a good pile. Next brush. So anyhow, so here's the thing I'm working on. I'm working one side to the other. It's where the guys are playing, what are they, counting coins at the table, I think it is, and there's a light that comes through the window, and they're all, the spotlight's on the one dude, and you'll see, we'll start getting him finished and into frame, so he's next. But, so I'm using this basic palette again, because it really does pick up on the sort of classic colors of the Renaissance period. And if you can find that palette, if you can find that sort of, this is me just trying to use some of this green up. I put too much green on the palette, so I'm just starting to throw some down. If you can find a way for you to incorporate that palette into your painting, you'll find that there's so many different combinations that come out of it from such a limited range, and I kind of like that. So but basically, like, this is the umber brown, but what I've put in it is blue, the deep blue, and it sort of makes it this really rich charcoal black kind of a tone to it. And, that's not half bad. I'm not complaining. This is a good brush. It's holding its shape. And what I mean by testing these brushes out is, as soon as I see a stray hair kicking off the side, it's got to go. It's done. I don't know why I'm keeping it. I used to, if I thought brushes were getting a little worn, I used to hold on to them thinking that I'll do some magic to them that makes them come back to life. And every now and then I end up gathering up all these brushes that I just don't know what to do with. So at this point, let's just clear them out. So yeah, it's kind of fun having the studio set up this way now, so that I have a dedicated space in the studio just to throw paint around. It really opens up opportunity to work on multiple things at the same time, but also to do larger paintings in a comfortable enough setup for me so that I can do like this, right? Right. And, if people have any questions or thoughts or anything like that along the way, you're always welcome. But the whole point of doing my stream here is just to chat with people and engage with the worldwide out there, and cuts away that sense of isolation that you get working in a studio at times, because you're just sitting there in the dark for X amount of time, slopping around materials. Yeah, it can get pretty isolating pretty quick. Lori's going on a little trip right now with her mom and her sisters to, well, end of the week, and to go to the Netherlands. And so I got to make sure that I don't just spend the entire time isolated and locked away in the studio here, trying to think of some things that I can do outside of the norm, just so that I can get outside and get out in the sun, so that she doesn't come back and I'm half raving crackers, in the corner. Oh, you're good. So I didn't prime the surface that I'm working on. This is just a big piece of manila paper, and so it's really absorbent, which is problematic, right? Because when you're putting paint down, you don't necessarily want all that paint to disappear the moment that you've placed it on the surface. But it's all right, I don't mind it. It gives me a lot of opportunity to just fill about and play. I've done the typical thing where this brush is good, where I've put what was I going to say? Oh, tape. I've put tape on the surface of the paper here, just because I like challenging myself that way. I like the monkeying around with the surface, so that it makes me, so when you're doing some of those fine lines, you got to be a little more dialed in, paying a little bit more attention to what you're putting down. So, the smallest little challenges can make something either really aggravating for people, or it can sort of change your direction and inspire you in ways that you might not have considered otherwise. I tend to like the, hope for the inspire you in ways you might not have considered otherwise part. But I can understand the frustration part. I can understand where you're trying to do a really fine little line and you got this chunky piece in between. That can aggravate people a lot, but those are the different little peccadillos that we all have, and what we're working on and how we go about working. This is the top of the character's head that is the spotlight's going on to. So this is the top of his noggin. He's facing down towards the table. What am I missing? What is on the wall behind your substrate? Is that cardboard? No, it's board. It's just board, and then there's of course drywalling behind that. But by putting this board here, it sort of makes me have to have a defined area for working on. I did put a ceiling a sealant on it, like a lacquer, in order to make it be less absorbent. But it works pretty good. The forest piece and the uh, the mountain piece that I did recently, those were both done on this surface, and they came along pretty well without any absorption underneath. So I think it works. So what I've got here are they're from a dollar store, but they're paint markers, but they're metallic-based paint markers. But that doesn't matter to me, the whole metallic-based business. They're just, because they're acrylic base, you can use these for sort of rough sketching in your composition and helping you to sort of plot your way around a little more clearly, a little quicker. See, there's the hand. Who, him? And there's benefit to that, because oftentimes everything feels really exploratory when you're putting marks down where you don't feel like you have a plan on where exactly those marks are going. So when you're able to sort of figure out some shape like this, it can make the process smoother and quicker. So you can start to get the sense of the whole of the space, the whole of the characters and how they take up the areas. Oh, there's some really crazy patterns in his puffy sleeves. This is another person's puffy sleeves, actually, that is resting his arm on this character's shoulder, and then his hand comes out and down like so. Whee! And I think this is the side of, we won't see much of his face because of the scaling here, but there's the whole of the composition. There's one more character who's off panel again over here. So, but there's sort of roughing it in to sort of give us a sense of where everything is. Hi, Salty, how you doing? So, and well, sorry, let me get my big head out of the way. So there's the breakdown of the composition, and by having everything sort of set out for yourself in advance, it lets you not have to, sometimes people will just constantly second guess on the scale of things and the relationship of things in the space and the proportion and so on and so forth. Whereas if you can just chop it in really quick, sort of lay it out for yourself, and then just come and fill in those large areas, then that takes all that consideration away. It's gone. Like that. So this is a big fat round brush. So because I've put it down fairly wet, you can see how it's just swallowing it up, the moisture, which is fine. There's the bottom of his beard, and here's the hand. Okay, so let's fiddle around with some of the finer things. So I use a raw sienna, which is kind of like a really light brown orange type thing, and I use that white and a little bit of the burnt sienna for making flesh tones with, and you can get a huge range out of that. It's just, it's always going to have that yellowish light to it. It's not ever going to be your sort of neon light value system. Like sometimes when you'll see some modern paintings and there's a lot of base blue light to it. At least I haven't fiddled around that way with these paints yet in order to try to accommodate that. But I bet you probably could. So I'm just finding hits of color off the hop and chopping those in big chunky bits. And in that way, I can come and fiddle around with the details after, but for the beginning of everything, I just want to get some degree of coverage. And that informs me of the relationship of light and dark, right? Like this hand has a deeper underside than it does above. Now, this isn't quite dark enough, but it's enough to give me the sense of what I just related to. It's actually intended to be much darker than that, but I'll build up to that. But you can see I'm painting over lots of tape there. So with this kind of approach, you can get a lot of stuff covered really quickly. You know. Because, you know, painting is intended to be fun and relaxing and calming and not something that causes anxiety. It's not meant to be something that, oh, I'm worried about getting all of these things wrong or those things wrong. And well, that's a beautiful thing about paint, is that you can go over it and do it again, right? It's a big chunky brush and use it again. These ones are always seem to be fine because you can roll them as you're working with them. It's not as necessary to have a fine point with them like flat and square brushes. So here's this crazy kid. Who? Me? Him? Who? What? There we go. So yeah, so the shark page was kind of fun. I enjoyed doing that. My time was kind of condensed last night. I had some stuff to do, and you know, I didn't really have an opportunity to work too much on things when I got home, so basically drew it this morning again before I had to go and again do a few more things. It's been a lot of time juggling of late. That's all right. Time juggling is good. Keeps you going. So I'm going to try to do, I have to reload this palette in a second. I'm going to try to get in a few more of these. Oh, we need a smaller brush. I tend to do a lot of compositions with one or two brushes at most, but certain instances you do need a smaller brush. That's a guy's face over there. So as usual, I'm curious if anybody's working on some stuff, you know, they want to regale the rest of us with, and always excited to hear that. People are always welcome to throw suggestions at me. I'll have to look back at the video to write them down, just because I'm actually 7 feet away from my computer. I guess 5, more like 5 feet. Keep myself out of trouble over here. Yeah, I'm pretty much right through all the paint I had in the palette. I've been trying to get some stuff together for some upcoming events, which is good in the hood. But things get busy. These are just little cheapo little tubes of dollar store paints. That's enough. They do the job for something like this. Quick little study. So I'm going to start again trying to chop in all of these large dark areas. Be a little more opaque than I've been. Now, some people like to look at paintings and go, oh, you can see the masterful brushstrokes. Not how I go. I'm sure that there is some degree of limited mark making, but sometimes it's just about getting coverage in there, getting some values down and moving along. But I find that with the blue and the brown, instead of just using a black, it gets more, there's a richness in that value. This is why I prefer using this over black if I can help it. Now, it's not to say I won't add black to it at times. But you can tell. Oh, what if I missed? Hiya, Liz. Oh, thumbed up and shared. Nice. All right, so yeah, quick and dirty. That's what this is. Made me think of Weird Al, or White and Nerdy. His son, Al Yankovic's son, is putting out pop rock now. Looks just like his dad. It sounds like his dad too. It's really kind of funny. All right, so there's majority of our coverage. Done for these areas. So the background behind these guys is like a nice, deep, very robust ochre value. But I'll put that in after. My initial interest is to get them in first. So hopefully it's starting to look something like. I watched a portrait artist. He said he put eyes in last. Didn't like him looking at him the whole time. All right. That's fun. Yeah, boy, yeah, I guess. I've never had a problem worrying about that too much. So this is just figuring out this base color on the arm. I'll come back in and tighten it all up after. And then we've got a lot of golds and yellows and creams and stuff like that in this space here. The goal is, and the time I've got here today, just to chop all this in, all the big areas of value, and then finish it all after that. But to start off with, I just want to get all of this, the basic blocks, down first. Because once you've got that, you're good to go. Like, you really are good to go to just to work forward at that point. So here's the other hand. I'm sort of staining it on, that's why I'm working so wet, is that I want that translucence. I'll build it up afterwards. But to start off with, being able to see that template underneath really does help out. Now we get this young man's hair in. Big blocks, big chunky business. Looks sloppy, looks dirty. Yeah. But then over time we refine it, right? We add a little more, we add a little more. Yeah, I think this brush is a lemon. I think it absorbs more than it puts down. What am I missing? Nice size. What is that in inches? This is a good question. I don't know. I think it's 2 by 2.5. I think it's only 2 feet by 2.5 feet is what I think I've got here. It could be, if I was to paint the whole composition that I'm doing this little study from in scale with this, I think that painting would be 15 feet across, maybe 10 feet high, something like that, just because I'm focusing on this little section of characters in an area that is got at least 2 or 3 times more to it. So it's, this is meager at best. But, sometimes it helps to work large, right? Like, when people are doing life drawings and things like that, it's really important that they don't work small. It's really important that they allow their arm to wiggle around. And the things that you can pick up from doing that are far greater than the amount of things that you pick up in getting the sweep and the width of the body than if you're doing it really tight controlled lines. The more that you allow yourself to fiddle about. So I'm sitting on a stool while I'm doing this. I've got a stool over here, and it's not on my feet this whole time, and because I hurt my knee this morning. Walking, something I'm still learning how to do, apparently. Actually, it was we have our new cat, Lucy, and Lucy thought she would help me out by running under my legs while I was going down the stairs, and I still got down the stairs, just not quite the way I wanted to. So my knee's a little sore for the moment. It's fine. We'll get over it. It's fine. You gotta love them though, and their little cats, because they're just so full of enthusiasm and vigor and they have absolutely no comprehension whatsoever that they just try to kill the person that feeds them. So, helpful. Lilies, how crazy is it from that same time? The public hated it. What? Yeah, Monet's water lilies are absolutely massive. People didn't quite get it when he was doing those, and largely because they were so big in scope with such limited amount of subject matter. As far as that assertion was by people, truth be told, there's massive amounts of subject matter. It's just they see flowers, and that's it for them. They just go, oh, I get it, flowers, as opposed to seeing, the loveliness of the diversity of the flowers and nature and all that those paintings contain. But the audience has always been one that sort of works on really short scales, right? It's like, look at Guernica. Guernica has like 16 different parts to it, and it's only years later that people really started getting it. Or how about Michelangelo's creation of Adam? It was only X amount of years later after that piece was finished that somebody realized that God, and with the angels around him in the cloak, represents the human brain. And people don't notice those things because that involves more investigation than one does when they just look at something in a cursory way. And that's just how it is, right? That's just how it is. It's just how it's always been. And that's, so be it. But it's challenging, especially when you spend X amount of time doing these massive scope images and people just go, oh, yeah, flowers. Like, there's paintings, though, that when you go and stand in front of them, they'll sort of punch you right in the face just because their impact is so huge. Water lilies is one of those, I think. But Oath of the Horotai by Jacques-Louis David, or The Raft and the Medusa is another one. Like, these are paintings that they are massive in scale, which is what people generally expect when they see classic art, right? In a book, they think that when they go see it live, it's going to be gigantic, and the Mona Lisa is really small. But Vermeer's work is all really small. So people tend to be anticlimactic when you get up to it, which is sad, really. It's kind of sad because we live in an age where scale is, sort of really changing up. It's hard to understand the scope of things when you see everything either through books or digitally. And then when somebody's confronted by them in person, of course it's not going to be whatever you thought it might be. Of course it isn't, It's the Wrath of the Medusa. That's 30 feet. That painting is 30 feet. That's gigantic. What are we at? 30 minutes. We're doing pretty good. They're beautiful, those lilies. They sure are. And Liz loves them. Yeah. Do you get trolls on here? No, I don't. And if I do, I don't notice. But no, our awesome Linda keeps me honest. She always makes sure to remind me to say things, and she's very encouraging and supportive. I appreciate Linda coming and hanging out. All right, so let's do this big area for the back now, and that should tie this sucker together. I had a little image popped up on my phone, of the painting, and it's been off for some time now, so we're just going with it at this point. We're just going with it. All right, so let's see how we go here. I've got a really wide brush now. And so I'm just going to really load it up and do a light covering on everything. And we'll add to this after. But hopefully by getting this coverage down, it ties things together a little more clearly. It's pretty, pretty brown. Yeah. Is there a painting that everybody thinks is their absolutely favorite? And it says I haven't seen any trolls here. That's great. Chris's voice is calming. Some people get anxious watching. Yeah, Linda says hi to everybody. Does a great job of it. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. You go to certain people's channels and like there's a certain kind of tone of voice that I find on certain gaming sites and things like that, or certain science sites, and I am always pleasantly refreshed when I hear somebody. There's a doctor that politics that I've been enjoying his channels of late. His name is Ray Casagrande, and he's got a really cool voice, and isn't that cool? When he points out terrible things that have occurred over time, perpetrated by bad people, and as he's describing these things, and he always has this really sarcastic, "Isn't that cool?" kind of a evaluation of it, but the way he says it, it's very endearing, because you can tell, no, he doesn't think that that's cool. So there's the larger area. So now I got to pull these really bright values out of here, but this sort of helps getting down these big values. It helps for really understanding how things are related in your composition. So before you spend a whole bunch of time focusing on a person's nose, if you're painting, just try to get the big large areas of value and shape in there, and then go back to that big old schnoz. There's a lot of water on this brush right now. That ain't good. That's all right. We'll make it work for us. Yeah, almost done. All right. Can I kill this brush yet? Nope. Boy, oh boy, this thing's got some staying power. Let's see what I'm missing over here. Hi, everyone. Hi, Chris. Salty says, I got a discount at this clothing store, Marks, by joining the... Jeez. Thank you. Thank you very much, Salty. The students you met last week are taking their final listening and reading test. I'm monitoring, so I might disappear without notice for check results. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, your kids are fantastic. That's great. Thanks, Chris, for popping in. Okay, so I got the big punches in here now. So when you look at I think it's the Calling of St. Matthew is what I'm doing a study from. So we've got the larger values here. You got this umber ochre background in here. You've got the dark values throughout here, which you can see where the light's coming and hitting the side of the face and the hand. So it just starts to become picking and choosing those softer, brighter tones as we work those through. But I put so much muck on this thing, I'm going to have to let it dry. So my plan for this week, I'll be here tomorrow. Thursday, I'm going to be at the doctor's, and then Friday I'll be back again as well. But Thursday I've got, I've got to go in for my skin cancer. So the next week I plan on being on an awful lot more, and I'll be doing some of this, and then I'll be doing stuff over at the desk as well. So I'll be doing a page a day, but then I'm going to do a whole bunch of work here in the studio, and I've got some projects that I want to get done. Some of the items that I was talking about yesterday during the stream, where I was mentioning about some of the storage devices and things like that, I'll be putting those together as well and showcasing those. So there's so many different things I've got planned. But while Lori's away, I'm going to be spending X amount of time. So I'll be doing a number of evening streams as well while I'm working in the studio anyways. So just to let people know. So next week I'll be on a fair amount. It doesn't let me do an awful lot of advanced warning and stuff. I might be recording some time lapse in the studio, and then taking those and posting them up at different times so they can do some scheduled events. But for the most part, I will be here guaranteed 2 o'clock most days, and then evenings as well. So, with all of that in mind, just letting you know now. But I don't have time to be on very long today, because I've got a bunch of stuff I've got to get done. But I wanted to come in and hang out and get at least all the basic areas of this composition down, and a good start, and then I'll finish this off. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. Maybe I need to let it dry, because it's pretty wet right now with all of the scrumbling in of basic colors. So you can see there's a lot of dampness throughout it. So I'll let it dry before I finish that off. But in the meantime, let's pick a page for tomorrow. Let me go over here and switch cameras. There we are. Hi, how are you? I have a short break tomorrow, and then a new group starting classes. Oh my goodness. June 19th to July 7th. After that, a week of vacation, and that's it. No more breaks till December. Oh my goodness. That's what went from an occasional contract is now working full time. This is awesome though, because this is ideal, especially with a good teacher like yourself, Chris, that you're able to do that and bring that opportunity to your students. There we go. Are you going to do the things I ask you to do, robot? I'm going to go buy a new stand for this thing. This is annoying me at this point. Stay. Okay. There we go. All right, so I can switch this on again. Hey, there we are. The painting's looking great. Oh, thanks. Okay, so with some of the stuff I've got planned for next week, if people have any suggestions or ideas that they want to try, let me know, and I'll endeavor to do those. I might not use this stand because it's really, really being dumb. Hey, there we go. We got something. Okay. Back in my squeaky chair. So let's pick a suggestion for tomorrow. Today I did the Jaws in reverse. The beachgoers are sharks and sharks are humans. That's done. That was today's page that I showed at the beginning, and I think a few minutes ago as well. And then for tomorrow, I think Marsha's got a good fun one here. A series of unfortunate ellipses is, I think, what I'll do. Full-time contracts are not common at my age. You're not hired anymore. Most companies are considered old. No, I think you're a very talented teacher. I think that has a lot to do with it, Chris. I think that, and you know, they've made a good decision. So getting you to come in. So all right. So tomorrow's page that I'll have finished is a series of unfortunate ellipses, and that suggestion came from Marsh Lee. So thanks, Marsh. Okay. Well, Paul's just joined us. Hi, Paul. I'll be I'm checking out right now, but I'll be back. I'll be back later on. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. Sorry, I'm deacon as you come in, Paul. I apologize. But yeah, thanks very much, everybody. I hope today was interesting, and thank you, Jim, for the suggestion for today's page, and yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out while we're doing this this painting of. Let's see, can I get it? I'll show you it once more. Hold on, I'm working the robots here. Wow, robots. There it is. Hey, look at that. So there's the wall space. For those of you that missed it, I'll just do a really quick run. Here's the new studio set up. And it's all studio now. I've removed my bookshelves and set up a library in the house, which I'll be showing soon. But you can see how I still have the same size desk area. I've just added this island in the center, a more dedicated area for painting, as well as better storage of materials and things like that. So yeah, so it's all coming together pretty good. So thanks everybody for coming and hanging out and checking stuff out. But yeah, you know, I'm gonna click on for now, and I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. All right, everybody, bye for now.